Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle news update. We're here again. I can't believe it. I have to report the tragic passing of 212 Olympian George Peterson. I don't know what to say. This is probably one of the most unexpected reports I'll ever have to do. The guy was in the prime of his career, one of the greatest, classic and 212 bodybuilders of our generation. He was prepping for the 212 Olympia in his hotel room. His coach, Justin Miller, a very, very close, dear friend of mine, was unable to get in contact with him. He knew something was not right. He got security to open up George's hotel room, and where they found George face down, dead, essentially. And obviously, they attempted CPR, and the paramedics came. But at that point, from what I understand, George's body was, he probably had been there for quite a while. And they were unable to revive him, and he was pronounced dead. From what I understand, there was some blood that was trickling from his nose. That could indicate, potentially an aneurysm or something like that to that degree. We don't know. Obviously, there'll be obviously an autopsy to determine the cause of death. But when you hear about anyone dying in the prime of their life, in a hotel room, prior to the biggest, bodybuilding event that they were ever going to appear in, poised to potentially win the Mr. Olympia competition 2 or 3 days out from the show. I mean, what do you say? I don't even know what to say. And for me to speculate, I couldn't even begin to speculate. Obviously, something was wrong with George. We're going to find out what happened. Was it a heart attack? Was it an aneurysm? Was it something else that we were unaware of? I don't know. But all I know is that our condolences here at RX Muscle go out to his family, his friends, his loved ones, his coach Justin, and all the legions of fans, obviously, that loved George, loved watching all his social media content that he put up all the time, loved watching his career as he progressed from classic physique into the 212 class and potentially was going to go into the open. The guy had the best back in bodybuilding right now, as far as I'm concerned. He always showed up in the best shape of his life. He won a lot of major competitions, including the Arnold. And, it was a stellar career from what he accomplished, but I know he had so much more still in him, and it's so sad to see him leave us. And, while we think about what he could have potentially done in bodybuilding, I think more of what he potentially could have done in life. And I think that's where George shined. He was a great human being. I don't think I've ever met a person who's had a bad word to say about George. And I don't think I've ever seen George badmouth anyone. I mean, I've interviewed him innumerable times. He worked for Cablevision on Long Island, and I know he loved it because when COVID hit, he got to work from his house, and which gave him a much more flexible schedule, obviously. But he was a guy who always went to work. He did his thing. He's a hardworking guy. He found time to do his gym stuff, to pose. He loved what he did. He was passionate about it. And you can see it just was exuded in his face and how happy he was when he was on stage doing what he loved to do. And that, to me, is a fulfilling life. However, I think he had so much more to give back, not just to the bodybuilding community, but to the people around him, his friends, his family. He was just getting started. He wasn't even 40 years old yet. And this is a tragic, tragic loss that is going to reverberate throughout our community for quite some time. I think more so than maybe even some of the other recent deaths that we've had in our industry, because of how young George was and because he was in the prime of his career. And he was poised to obviously, be reaching that pinnacle of his career over the next couple of years. So, like I said, I'm like tongue-tied. I don't know what to say. It's a terrible loss, and we all have to mourn together and hopefully celebrate his life at this Mr. Olympia competition 2021. As they say, the show always must go on. It will go on, but George will not be forgotten for sure. Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle news update.